I am leaving this recording because I don't know if I will make it out of Black Mesa alive. On the 22nd of July, 2022, I followed an old radar technician named Earl Dobson into the sealed tunnels of the abandoned military radar facility on the northern edge of Black Mesa. He'd told me stories about Signal Anomaly Number 4, a classified project the government buried in 1981. Officially, it was interference, unexplained static. But Earl insisted it was alive, that it spoke to people, that it promised things they could never have. The facility itself was a rotting skeleton of Cold War secrets. Barbed wire fences sagged in the desert heat. Rusty corrugated walls rattled in the wind like hollow drums. The sun was sinking, staining the cliffs deep crimson. I kept recording the whole time. I wanted to make a real story for the station. I thought it would be a local legend, a curiosity. Earl was nervous the moment we got there. He fumbled with the padlock like it was too heavy for his hands. When it clicked open, a smell of mildew and stale air rolled out to greet us. The halls inside were lined with rotting acoustic foam that crumbled under our boots. Earl started the generator he'd brought, which roared to life with a sickly cough. Light flooded narrow corridors, throwing shadows like grasping hands onto the walls. He explained that this was all part of Project Chrysalis, a test site for intercepting deep space signals. But the signal they found wasn't from space, it was from somewhere else, somewhere underneath us. They called it an anomaly, but it grew stronger over time. It learned to speak. It knew who was listening. It knew their names. Earl's voice was flat, mechanical, like he'd told this story too many times and didn't want to anymore. We went deeper, the generator trailing extension cords behind us like black veins. Earl kept stopping, listening for sounds I couldn't hear. He said it could call to you in your own voice, or in the voice of someone you missed. I told him to focus, to keep going. He didn't answer. We reached a hatch sealed with a faded biohazard warning. The paint was cracked, the metal cold and sweating. Earl typed in a code with shaking fingers. It beeped and clicked open. Inside was a wide circular room lined with decommissioned radar consoles. Cables snaked everywhere, and in the center stood a lattice antenna, its surface corroded but intact. Equations were scrawled on an ancient chalkboard in a hand I couldn't read. I raised my microphone, feeling stupid for trying to make a ghost story sound professional. The hiss on the tape shifted in pitch, modulating like breath in the dark. Then it shaped itself into a word. My name. I froze. My heart hammered in my throat. I heard it again, soft, deliberate. Earl didn't flinch. He told me it knew we were here, that it always waited for someone new, that it wanted to learn us. I wanted to leave then, but my producer was outside, waiting with the contractors. I told myself it was just interference, old circuits coming to life. The generator buzzed, lights flickered. In that second of darkness, I heard another voice, my father's, dead 12 years. It called me by my childhood nickname. The lights snapped back on. Earl gripped my arm hard enough to hurt. He whispered that it was getting stronger, that it fed on memory, on grief. He was crying but didn't seem to know it. I forced us to back away. We made it to the hatch, but the radio crackled. My producer's voice, panicked, said someone was outside the trucks with a flashlight. Earl shut off the generator instantly. Darkness swallowed us whole. The voices didn't stop. They multiplied, layered and layered. Old friends, dead relatives, strangers, whispering secrets in tongues I didn't understand. I felt them in my head, like nails tapping on glass. I pressed my hands over my ears, but the voices were inside me, crawling through every thought. I could feel them tugging at memories, pulling up old regrets, things I hadn't spoken about in years. The corridor felt endless. My flashlight trembled in my hand as I swung it wildly. Earl wasn't with me anymore. I spun around and saw him standing by the antenna, bathed in the weak glow of the emergency lights. His eyes were glassy, unfocused. His mouth moved silently as if reciting a prayer. He said they promised he could see her again. His wife, dead 20 years. His voice was wet and cracked, pleading with the dark. I tried to grab him, but he jerked away from me. I begged him to move. He wouldn't. My radio crackled again, but the voice on the other end wasn't my producer anymore. It sounded like my mother. She died when I was 17. She told me it would be all right, that I could come home. I screamed at the voice. My own voice cracked. The walls seemed to close in, the shadows pressed like oil. Shapes emerged in the corners of the room. Thin, tall figures that rippled like heat mirages, featureless but moving with purpose. The antenna began to hum again, a low and resonant sound that made my teeth vibrate. I ran to the hatch and slammed the code in over and over. It denied me each time. The shadows moved closer, pressing their faceless forms against the walls. They whispered my name over and over in a chorus of voices I'd known and voices I'd never heard before. I kicked at the door until my foot bled. The metal groaned. I don't remember how I got it open. Only the cold air hitting my face as I tumbled into the outer corridor. I ran, breath-ragged, past consoles flickering with alien symbols that crawled and reshaped themselves as I passed. I reached the exit, gasping for air, and found our trucks abandoned. The equipment was scattered on the ground like the people using it had just vanished. No tracks, no sign of them. Only silence, except for the wind. As I drove away, the voices followed me, whispering from the back seat, crawling through the radio even when it was off. For miles, even hours later, I heard them. Promises of reunion. Secrets only I knew. Even now, as I finish this recording, I can feel them pressing in, listening, waiting for the moment I stop talking so they can speak again.